What are your expectations for Rivera with the Redskins?
Well, I think he'll turn them around and he'll make them respectable. He's a good man. He's a good football coach, but he's never been accused of being exceptional. He got them to the Super Bowl one year with a 15-1 season, Cam Newton's MVP year. But he missed the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years, and it was en route to missing it 3 of the last 4. He got fired at week 13 of this season. Josh Norman is right. Players love him. They swear by him. They know he knows what he's doing, etc. It's just that when you talk about the great elite coaches in this game, you've never talked about him in that light. I think that he will make them respectable. I think he'll get them in the playoff picture, probably even in the playoffs in the NFC East eventually. And I don't blame them for making this higher. I applaud it. But in the same breath, let's understand it's not it's not that it's Bill Belichick, Mike Tomlin, anybody like that. He's never been accused of being one of those guys. That's just the truth.
Yeah, those guys are hard to find, though. I can't expect that they would find those. Like, he's available because he isn't those guys. Those guys would never become available. And I think this is a great hire for them for all the reasons, not just Josh Norman saying what he said coming in, the guys in Carolina saying what they did through social media and through interviews after he left. I think that what is far more important, and that's missed every year when people hire coaches, is they try to go get a guy because of his scheme. People catch up to scheme. They figure stuff out. I think which is more important is having a guy with executive capacity and also the emotional intelligence to build a locker room and have guys buy in. That's the harder thing to find, and that is sustainable. That's sustainable success. You see that in all the places you name. Mike Tomlin, no one's ever accused Mike Tomlin of being some great tactician. But what he's done that's more important is he's gotten the best out of the coaches on his staff and the players in his organization. The same is true for Harbaugh, who I played for. Like, those things are important. I think Rivera has the potential to be something like that, and also getting Bruce Allen out there allows them to kind of move on from that past chapter. Maybe Daniel Snyder will be hands-off, which, as I understand, he's been pretty hands-off up until this point, or at least in recent years. They get in a real GM. I think this team could be getting really good real soon.
Like with politicians, I think with head coaches, character is more important than policy, specific policy choices, because character will inform all those situations. Same thing with head coaches. Whether or not you like a guy's scheme or this and that, as you just mentioned, Dominique, what's the character of the guy? And I will give Dan Snyder, who I believe is probably the worst owner in the NFL, credit for this. I mean, he had a laughable, when they fired Bruce Allen, a laughable statement made today. Like our passionate fan base, I recognize that we have not lived up to the high standards set by the great coaches and players who've come before us. You mean at all, ever, since he's owned the team? They've been a laughingstock, basically, like barely above laughingstock in their good years. So I will credit Dan Snyder for this. You got to crawl before you can walk. I'm not saying, I don't think, maybe Rivera could win a Super Bowl. I think it's possible he could. But that's not what I'm anticipating here. And again, like we brought up Mike Tomlin. Tomlin's making coaches look bad right now. No one else can not have a losing season with what he had to work with. You don't have to be Mike Tomlin to be a good coach. And the main thing for Washington is to get the culture stabilized and turned around first. And then if Rivera can't ultimately be successful, you think about maybe who can. But it's a good, solid hire. Now the question is, does he get to bring in his GM? Or is this going to be a Dan Snyder joint, because he'll certainly screw it all up?
Yeah, I mean, Rivera, for him to take the job so soon, that suggests to me that he got all the stipulations that he wanted, because he was a coveted guy. I don't think he would have signed up for this right away. Obviously, it's not reporting. I don't know this for sure, but he was a coveted guy. He wouldn't have jumped on this right away unless he knew that he was going to have some say in this next decision. At least that's my opinion.